Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to get started in about 2 or 3 minutes. We'll let everybody join in. So we'll just hang out for a minute here. Just a couple of quick items. We'll have a recorded version of the webinar available after. I know a lot of people ask about that. We will be doing this. If you can put your computer, you can close other programs, connect on a laptop, connect with the Chrome browser, things like that. That will work a little bit better than if you are trying to connect on a tablet or if you have a lot of other items open or things like that. So, like I said, we'll get started in just about 2 minutes or so. Let a few more people filter in, and then we'll get going with it. So as people are still coming in, just going to get started in about 2 minutes here. We have a Tale of Two Remodelers, which is Tips to Nail Your Sales Process by Kyle Hunt. We'll be starting just a couple of minutes after the hour, trying to let a couple more people log in here. For the best video quality, if you can close out any other programs on your browser, tends to work a little bit better with Google Chrome, but it should work fine on Firefox or Safari. You can also works a little better on your computer or laptop rather than a mobile device. And you can check out the chat to the right. So I see Dylan has already found the chat, which is great. And if you have any questions, I'll be on the chat throughout the webinar, and we'll be able to answer questions as we go. We're going to be doing a Q&A at the end. So if you want to ask questions throughout the webinar, you can put them in there, and I'll make note of them throughout the presentation, and then we can bring them up at the end as well. So again, we'll just give about another minute here to let people come on in. We are going to get started pretty soon here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Like I said, we are at the Tale of Two Remodelers, Tips to Nail Your Sales Process. This is going to be Kyle Hunt presenting this. Just to repeat myself one last time in case anybody else is still coming on. For the best video quality, try to close out other programs, connect with Chrome, or use a laptop. There will be a recorded version available after the webinar, so just check your emails for that. You'll automatically get that. It'll also be available on our website, clearestimates.com/webinars, so you can check that out. And then on the right side of your screen, you'll see a chat, so feel free to ask any questions there. I'll be on the chat while Kyle's presenting, and I will do my best to answer questions. We'll do a Q&A at the end, so I'll write down any questions that people have during the presentation, and then I will try to answer. We'll bring those up at the Q&A if I can't answer them during the call. So without any further ado, present Kyle Hunt, who will be doing our presentation here. So throw it over to you, Kyle.
Excellent. Let me get the screen share going. All right. Good to go, Jack?
Yep, good to go.
All right. Excellent. So hello, everybody. Really appreciate you dialing in for the webinar today. My name's Kyle Hunt. I run a business called Remodel Your Marketing. I'm up here in the great state of Michigan. And I work with remodelers across the country. And primarily what I do is help them transform their sales process, help them organize their sales pipeline and the leads they have, help them automate their follow-up. And that's a lot of what we're going to focus on today. and with the way I approach my work with remodelers, I have just a really strong interest in helping you guys improve not just the business, but your work-life balance, help you feel in control of your business. And certainly part of that is also helping you close more sales and make more money, deposit more money in the bank. But the topic that we're talking about today related to really the initial sales call we have with a new prospect is such a critical moment in the process, and we're going to really dig into that today. First thing I wanted to do is just give you some kudos for being here in the first place. There are a ton of your colleagues around the country that are just too busy to attend a webinar like this. And frankly, you guys just must not have anything to do today, right? Have zero on the to-do list, no work to do. Yeah, right. You guys are just as busy, but what you realize is that you have to take some time out to work on the business, not just in the business. So kudos to you for doing that. And just a little side note, one thing I realized back in the fall, it kind of hit me, I went through it in the fall and then it kind of hit me at the turn of the new year, is that lack of inspiration. If you're feeling in your business kind of like, man, this is the same thing day in, day out, man, I just don't feel excited about the business right now. May I suggest that it may be due to lack of learning, right? Lack of inspiration equals lack of learning. When we're attending a webinar like this, getting new information, getting new ideas that we can take back and not just say, hey, I got 100 ideas, but you got one idea that you can actually implement in your business, that sparks some inspiration, that sparks some fire in you and keeps that energy level in your business alive. So way to be here, and our goal here today is to learn something. Actually, my one goal is really not for you to take away 10, 15, 20 different ideas from this webinar. We don't lack ideas. We have plenty of ideas. All the different trade magazines, emails you get, colleagues, books you're reading, you're inundated with ideas. What I think we lack is, how do we prioritize what the best idea is that I need to implement in my business? And the biggest thing we lack is implementation. So my goal for you is, when you get off this webinar, and this is one of the things at the end that we're going to ask you to put in the chat box, is not, yes, we want questions, we're going to have some fun with Q&A later, but I also want to hear your one clear takeaway. One clear takeaway of something that you heard that you're actually going to do something with, that you're actually going to implement. That's why you're here, right? That's why you're here. So that's my big goal, is just to give you one clear takeaway that's going to help you improve your business. All right. Very, very briefly about myself. I'm married and I have 4 kids. If that doesn't kind of summarize things in my life, I don't know what does. I run my own business. I'm married and 4 kids. So that pretty much takes care of about 96% of my life. I used to play a little golf, before we got busy, but everything's good on this front. And like I said, I started my business about 8 years ago, Remodel Your Marketing, and I just saw a need out there for proven, practical, simple, effective help for remodelers. And I've been hammering away at this and having fun with this for 8 years now. So there's a nice little quick brief intro. Let's get into the tale of 2 remodelers. So most of the webinar today is going to be a story, and it's a story about Cathy and Chris, who you're seeing on the screen right there. And they're a husband and wife who live in a good-sized town. They just moved this past year because of a job change and are starting to get to know some of the local people and businesses, but don't really have a lot of relationships established yet. Okay, they bought a home that they knew they were going to need to remodel, and the time has come for them to get started on their kitchen remodeling project. They're excited. They've done a little bit of research online. Chris has spoken to a couple colleagues at work about the project. Cathy's been talking to a few of her new friends about what they're looking to have done. And that's Cathy and Chris. That's kind of where they're at. They're the homeowners in this story, getting ready to embark on a kitchen remodeling project. All right, so if this is called the tale of 2 remodelers, we need 2 remodelers to be a part of this. So who we have here, and let me preface it by saying, this is a fictitious tale. that is not actually Tom, and he does not actually run a business called Cornerstone Construction. It's actually a stock photo that I spent some cash on. But as we move through this, what you're going to see in the story is what gets played out in the remodeling industry every day. And what I'll be really curious to see is which of the two remodeling companies remind you of your business. So the first company here is Cornerstone Construction. We'll refer to them just as Cornerstone throughout our story. And Cornerstone has been in business for 15 years. They have an owner named Tom with Cornerstone, and Tom does most all of the sales work for the company. He has a production manager, he has one carpenter out in the field, in-house office manager. Most of the production work is done through a trusted group of trade partners, subcontractors that they've had a great relationship with for years. Usually do a little over $1 million in revenue. Projects kind of range kitchens, baths, additions. Kind of have a good picture if you just look at that screen there of who Tom with Cornerstone is. All right. Now our second remodeler is Bill with Refined Remodeling. Look at that fancy guy wearing his sport coat. So Bill's business, Refined Remodeling, strikingly similar to Tom's. They haven't been in business quite as long. He's built up revenue to a little over 1.5 million, a little higher this year than it was last year. Has some help in the office, has a production manager that's on his team. And like Tom, most of his projects are made up of a combination of kitchens, baths, additions, a lot of trade partners, subcontractors that he's working with. But the bottom line here is very similar businesses. One is not very much different than the other. All right, so that is Bill with Refined Remodeling. So if you're following along, we got the homeowners, Cathy and Chris. We have Tom with Cornerstone. We have Bill with Refined Remodeling. And what we're going to do with our story is walk you through the sales process that Cathy and Chris experience with Tom and with Bill. And what you're going to see is that both of the remodelers are respectable and do quality work. But what you're going to see in the story are just little differences between the companies that while they might seem small, really make the difference in who Cathy and Chris end up choosing for their project. So what I'm gonna do is focus for the most part on just one part of the sales process. I want us to spend our time kind of going deep on just one thing versus skimming on the surface of 10 things. So this first half of this webinar is really going to be digging into this. By the way, that just a quick side note, that's pretty good principle to follow in your business. It kind of plays off of that whole one goal. I didn't say I wanted you guys to have 5 or 10 takeaways from this webinar. I wanted you to focus on having just one, and similar mindset here. Instead of trying to do 10 things at once and getting them 10% done, do one, get it fully implemented. Right? It's so much more valuable to have that one thing implemented than 3 or 5 or 10 things kind of sort of started. All right. So actually, I'm going to take a quick drink of water, and I just want you to think about for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, what's that one thing in your business that you've been meaning to implement, marketing, sales, production, financial, whatever it is. What's that one thing that you've been wanting to implement? And feel free to type it in the chat too. We can circle back to it later, that you just have kind of been putting off, or that you just haven't really grabbed and done yet. All right. Didn't give you much time to think, but gave you a little time to think. So the initial phone call, that one part that we're really going to dig into up front here is the initial phone call and what happens before either remodeler arrive at Cathy and Chris's door. Okay. Initial phone call, what happens before either remodeler arrive at Cathy and Chris's door. All right. And one thing I want to add to that is, marketing and sales. So we're talking about the sales process here, but, marketing and sales go hand in hand. What the definition of marketing is getting someone who has a need, getting Cathy and Chris, who need a kitchen remodel, to know, like, and trust you. Marketing is getting someone who has a need, getting that remodeling prospect who has a need to know, like, and trust you. And hopefully you're going to see some of that know, like, and trust building as you're listening to how Tom and Bill go through their initial call. All right, so Cathy, the homeowner, is the one who initiates a phone call to Tom with Cornerstone and Bill with Refined. In both cases, their office manager answers the phone. So Tom's office manager took down Cathy's name and phone number, type of project she was interested in, and let Cathy know that Tom would be calling her tomorrow. Okay, he was out of the office for the rest of the day. Conversation lasted 3 minutes, and it was over. Pretty quick, right? Pretty simple. Got the basic information. Yes, that's a project we're interested in. Hey, I'll have Tom give you a call back. Good to go. All right. Conversation lasted like 3 minutes. Now, with Refined, with Bill's office manager answered the phone and uncovered the reason for Cathy's call and then said, great, do you have 5 to 7 minutes to answer some questions about yourself and the project you had in mind? Of course, Cathy said yes in this case, and Bill's office manager started asking the questions on her project discovery sheet. Okay, actually has a form, actually has a system when a new call comes in, pulls out the project discovery sheet. Our friends over at Cornerstone with Tom, blank sheet of paper. Just jot it down, hand it over to Tom. Bill, project discovery sheet. Bill's office manager started asking some questions. How did you hear about us? Have you visited our website yet? When are you looking to have this project completed by? Okay, questions like that. She told Cathy, hey, Bill's going to be calling you later today. That conversation will probably last 15, 20 minutes since he really is going to want to know about you guys, about your project, share a little bit more about who we are and what our process is. Does that sound good? Cathy said, you bet. And the call ended. All right, so Bill called Cathy back the same day and they spoke for 15 or 20 minutes just like planned. Bill asked a lot of questions like, Cathy, have you guys ever remodeled before? If so, tell me about the experience. He got to know them and their projects. They chatted about the fact that they're new to the area, found some common interests. Okay. As he's talking, and this is the part that you just have to have your antenna up. You have to be paying attention, right? If you start to ask questions and Cathy shares something like, they just moved here, what should be your next question, right? Oh, where did you guys move from? What started the move? What was the reason you guys moved, right? And as you talk about this, you hear job change, right? When you talk about how they found out about us, and it was somebody from the school that Cathy has gotten to know. Bill has a wonderful opportunity. Bill already knows that they have kids. I see here that somebody from School Connection. What school do your kids go to? How old are they? Right? Now, this isn't like just beat them with questions and get the project discovery sheet out and just ask them question after question after question after question. This takes a little skill, right? It takes a little skill. But again, our goal is to build know, like, and trust. Our goal is to show genuine interest. It's helpful for me to know if they have kids, that they recently moved here and maybe don't know much about the area, right? It helps for me to know what stage and age the kids are at, right? Okay, it helps for me to understand if they've ever remodeled before and how the experience goes. Okay, so just getting to know people, right? Some people that is very easy to do and it comes natural. For others, this is a skill that you have to learn, right? Like anything, it's a skill you have to learn. So just wanted to kind of dig into that part a little bit. Now, eventually, after really getting into the project and talking about the project, Bill's goal here, your guys' goal here, should be to really have a clear picture of what this kitchen remodeling project looks like. Okay, Bill's going to say, all right, let's talk about the project. What are you guys looking to do? And just use your skill. Use your skill as a remodeler, as somebody that's interested, as somebody that knows what they're talking about, to start to ask about, are you looking to move any walls? Approximately how big is the space? Are you looking to move plumbing? Okay, let's talk about just cabinets for a minute. It sounds like if you guys have kind of the 1980s cabinets, they don't go all the way up to the ceiling. They're not ceiling height, right, Cathy? No, they're not. Are you guys looking for something that has that little better better look that goes all the way up to the ceiling. You guys looking for the slow close doors. Let's talk about countertops for a little bit. If you guys, sounds like you've been doing some research and clicking around and looking at some places. Have you looked at countertops? You see what I'm doing with these questions is through these questions and through your guys' skill, you guys, if you guys ask some questions, you've been doing this for so long and you're good at it, the goal is to get a clear picture of the project in your head. Once you have that, I want you to ask this question, okay? I want you to say, Cathy, have you and Chris talked about what you're looking to invest in this project? What type of financial investment you're looking to make in this project? And then shut up. Don't say anything, okay? And let her answer. Now, some people will say, I don't know. Some people are going to say, that's why we're calling you. Some people are going to say, yeah, we've looked at that. Probably in the $20,000-$25,000 range. Other people for this beautiful kitchen remodel, they may say, well, HGTV said it's going to cost $5,000 and take 5 days. Right? That's what we're up against sometimes. But you heard the one part that I emphasized: clear picture of what the project looks like. And using your years of experience, you will be able to give some type of ballpark range a good majority of the time. Kitchens and baths especially. Additions, tougher ball game. Finished basements, depends on how many you've done. But for kitchens and baths, a range, okay? And this range might be, a project like this based on what you're describing. I know your neighborhood, kind of know the style of the home. You're looking in the 30,000 and up range, and it really depends on what you're looking at. It could be 30 to 50. And let me emphasize, Cathy, for you, because you're going to hear that 30. Let me emphasize that $50,000, depending on what we want to do and how we select things and all the details. How does that sound to you? Okay. Now, again, we've built some know, like, and trust. Again, we didn't ask this question in the first 2 minutes of the call. Again, this is 10, 15, 18 minutes into the call after you have a picture-perfect view of the project, and you can fairly confidently throw that out there, okay? Now, this is a very, what's the best word for it? This is a controversial topic sometimes in our industry to ask about budget, right? But man, if you don't get this on the table early, or if you don't somehow get this up on the initial phone call, or at the very least, yes, maybe at least at the initial in-person meeting. But what I found is that once you start to think through this and strategize this, practice this, do this, it becomes pretty normal, becomes pretty natural. There's a lot of remodelers in our industry, Bill with Refined Remodeling included, that have kind of mastered how to bring this up elegantly and not in a salesy way, but in a way that says, the reason I'm asking you for this is not to spend up to the penny of what you're looking, the number you give me, but just to talk realistic, to just have an open, frank, honest discussion about what you guys are looking to invest. Because I'm able to advise you based on that. I'm able to optimize this project to give you the most bang for the buck. All right. So I'll hold off there. I assume, and Jack, you're looking at the questions, that there may be, some questions that come up about this particular part. If there is one right now, we can maybe take one. If not, we can grab one at the end.
No questions yet, but if anything comes up, I'll jump in for you.
All right, cool. All right. So the other thing that Bill gets into is kind of defining Refined Remodeling's process. In his case, they have a little design fee component to it, or a project development fee. Even if you don't have that as part of your process, just explaining to the prospect over the phone what to expect. This is how we work. This is what's going to happen as a next step, okay? Now, one thing that I want you to kind of be aware of, in this case, Bill is talking 30% of the time, Cathy is talking 70% of the time. Now, as you all know, 47% of all statistics are made up. If you guys weren't all on mute, there would be roars of laughter, because that's a good line, right? 46% of all statistics are made up. But so I don't know if it's exactly 70%. I don't know if it's exactly 30%. But the bottom line is they should be talking more than you if we're doing this right. If it's the other way around, we're not asking enough questions and we're not listening. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind and pay attention to that next time you're talking with a prospect. All right. So back to the story. Bill booked a time to meet with Cathy and Chris, and then Bill said, Cathy, you're going to be receiving an email from us, and it's going to contain a document titled What to Expect at Our First Meeting. I'd like you and Chris to please read that before we meet, and I'd like to spend the first 10 minutes of our appointment reviewing that. Does that sound good? Cathy, of course, said yes. And then Bill continued, excellent. So in the email, I will also include a link to House, which I told you about. You're going to love that site, by the way. And I'll also include a few other resources that I think will be helpful to you guys as you're starting this process. What's your email address so that I can send that to you? Sometimes we get hung up on getting people's email address, or if we just blatantly ask for it, sometimes people try to kind of keep it close to their chest and they don't want to share it. They don't want to get spam. They don't want to get added to 18 lists, right? But when we give a prospect the reason that we're doing it, if we're saying, look, as part of our process, I'm going to send you a document titled What to Expect at the First Meeting. I want you to review that. I'm going to send you some helpful resources that I want you guys to review and look at. If they say no to the email, that is a red flag for me, right? They're basically saying, okay, your process, don't care, right? So if we do this right, and if they are the proper prospects, 99.9% of the time, we're going to get an email address. So Cathy provided her email address, and Bill sent out the email with a click of a button. Now, we're not on this call to sell anything, but to educate. But I will mention just at the tail end of our webinar, I have a program called Remodelers Autopilot. And when I say Bill sent that email out with a click of a button, it literally was just a click of a button. This Remodelers Autopilot just automates, streamlines a lot of what we're talking about in the sales process. It just makes it a lot easier. In Bill's case, he just clicks something called a new prospect sequence, and boom, instantly a customized email, confirm the date and time of the appointment, professionally written, organized, went out with a click. All right. There's the What to Expect at the First Meeting documents. Side note, my email address will be on a couple of these slides. I've shown the project discovery sheet. I've shown the What to Expect at the First Meeting document. If you would like copies of those, shoot me an email. Or if you go to my website, remodelyourmarketing.com, if you just fill out the little sidebar thing, you'll get a copy of those that you can use and implement. All right. So
Kyle, we
back
actually,
to the yeah.
It's all right. We actually have a question from Dan about
Sure.
I think the initial conversation, and
Yeah.
he's wondering about when you find that the customer is about 15 grand off of what the price is really, the ballpark of the price is going to be. How does that conversation go? How do you work them through that?
If it's a $300,000 job, we're 15 grand off, we're okay. But I think Dan's talking more probably about the the $25,000 master bath remodel, and they throw out the $10,000 number, right?
Yeah.
So Dan, you're going to steal a little bit of my thunder here, but I'll get into it. I had a couple slides later, but let's just dig into it right now. The reason that I'm spending so much time on this initial phone call is that I would argue it is the most critical and important part of the business. Flat out, the business. And Dan, you bring up one of the reasons why. It's because this initial phone call allows you to qualify people. And I'll answer Dan's question by telling a story of a conversation I just had yesterday with one of my clients in Connecticut. And I've been working with them for a couple of years, and we've made great progress on improving their sales process. But what they've done here recently, as they've gotten busier, is they've gotten away from the core things that we've talked about, things we're talking about right here. They're skipping through the initial phone call really fast. They're not taking the time to ask questions. And what I was realizing is that they're just running out on way too many leads. They're trying to save time by just kind of rushing through the initial phone call, and it ends up costing them hours and hours and hours. So I hit them with that a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you guys, we got to get back to what we know we need to do. Man, so often in our businesses that happens, right? We know what we need to do, and we just get away from systems as we get busy. So in their case, that was a couple of weeks ago. And when I got on the phone with them yesterday, Nancy was sharing a story with me of, Kyle, we got a bathroom lead. It was already in a city that was a little bit of a stretch for us, so I wasn't that excited about it. She went through the initial phone call just like I just laid out with Bill with Refine. She had a really clear picture of what the project looks like. She asked, what are you guys looking to invest in this project? And it was like a $15,000 spread, just like you're asking, Dan. And what she said is, through our experience, what we've done for years and years, the type of project that you're mentioning, it starts at $20,000. I think they were mentioning something like $8,000 budget or something once she finally got a number from them. We're a long ways off there. The customer's response was, well, we've already got like 2 or 3 other bids and they're in the $8,000-9,000 range. And Nancy's response was, well, if you have those, I can tell you just from our experience, we're probably going to be in that $20,000 range. So I don't think we're going to be a good fit for each other. And she didn't rudely do it. She just professionally did it, shared that news. Customer agreed. They parted on fine terms, and bada bing, it was over. Now the thing that's interesting about this is that 2 months ago, they would have taken a 3-minute phone call, booked the appointment, hustled out there, done the proposal, met with them, right? If they were following the process, they would actually meet in person with them to present the proposal. They would have spent what, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours between driving back and forth proposal, 7, 8 hours? And because she spent an extra 5 minutes and professionally and elegantly talked about things, it was done within 6, 7 minutes. And now what does she do? What do they do? Her and Mark, husband-wife team, what do they do with that extra 6, 7 hours, right? They could, if they're like you guys, if they're like a lot of the remodelers I'm working with, they got plenty to do. But those hours can now be spent with more ideal prospects. Those hours can be spent on clients that are a good fit for you. Those hours could be spent, Mark's able to go out and get in the field and manage production better. Therefore, when I quoted 100 hours, we're actually coming in at 100 hours instead of the project running loose because I'm running here and running there, and our guys aren't being as productive as they could be, and we're losing money on the project, right? That Mark could be using that to go out and meet and have a BLB. If somebody wants to know what a BLB is, type that in the questions. We'll do that in the Q&A. Having a BLB with a strategic partner and developing a relationship, building some know, like, and trust with a strategic partner that could refer them. So I answered Dan's question of just being honest and saying, look, based on our experience, based on our expertise, and you gave me a really clear picture of what this project's looking like. I know the age of your home. I know we've been in that home. We've done these projects. We did a project just 6 months ago, very similar, that is in this range, and the homeowner may just have no idea, and they may say, wow, I didn't realize that. Again, they're watching HGTV. Right? I want to throw things at that HGTV show. Love them because they're generating interest in remodeling. But old Chip and Joanna, my wife loves Chip and Joanna. We were watching them the other day. I'm going, really? $3,000 to do that bathroom? Thanks a lot. All my boys and girls out in the remodeling industry just really appreciate the fact that you just turned a $15,000 project into a $3,000 project. Anyways, but I digress. So that answers Dan's question, but I wanted to parlay that into the big picture here of why we're talking about this and the importance of it. All right. Does that answer it, Jack?
Yep, I think that was good. Thanks.
All right. So, I even stood up for that, folks. When I really get into this, I stand up for it. I stood up for that bad boy. All right. So now I got to get back to my notes and where we're at here. All right, so this is a very difficult question. Who has the upper hand so far? Bill from Refined or Tom with Cornerstone? Right? It's pretty obvious if you're following along. And what I want to emphasize here is the key is the difference between the two remodelers and their sales processes are substantial, but there's nothing earth-shattering. Right? Bill and Refine just has a clear process and system for the initial call and the questions they ask. They don't sound scripted, but they do sound organized. They know a whole lot more about Cathy and Chris's needs, fears, desires, expectations than Tom does. And Tom didn't technically do anything wrong, right? He just did the bare minimum, but Bill has built much more know, like, and trust with Cathy and Chris at this point. And the big key here is that Bill has a system and Tom is shooting from the hip, okay? And I just can't emphasize enough how important the process from that initial phone call until the time we get to the person's door is. That first impression just goes such a long ways in differentiating you from your competition. So let's kind of recap what's happened so far. Bill Refine showing up to the in-person meeting, having spent so much more time with Tom than Tom, getting to know Cathy and Chris. He's asked them about how much they're looking to invest in the project, and he has that number. He set an expectation of how that in-person appointment is going to start. If you remember, they're going to spend the first 10 minutes reviewing what to expect the first meeting document, and Cathy and Chris have prepared for that. Cathy and Chris have received a professional, organized email from Bill with resources and links. They prepared an idea book on hows, and Bill already has reviewed that. They sent that to him. They're aware of his design fee and how his process works, so there are not going to be any surprises there. And if you're seeing this, that initial call and what happens before he ever walked up to their door has really set the stage. He has a process he follows. He's organized. He's enhanced that process with valuable resources, good questions. He's educating Cathy and Chris on what they need to know. And you may have heard me use this word a couple times already, but he's in control of the sales process. He's elegantly, not in a pushy, annoying way. There's nothing that I teach related to the sales process that is slimy or salesy. He is elegantly and professionally leading the homeowners through the remodeling process. Okay. On the flip side, Tom with Cornerstone has none of those things. Very basic understanding of the project, no idea what their budget is, no communications via email. They don't know his process. He looks, talks, and acts the same as a bunch of other remodelers, while Bill with Refine stands out. Okay. And I've just seen this with dozens of remodelers across the country that I've worked closely with, implementing these little things, little email between the initial phone call and the first meeting, project discovery sheet, implementing these little things, a good solid question that nobody else asked, tracking how they found out about us, doing something with that information. It just makes a huge difference in turning more of the leads you already have into paying projects. Or as I was saying when I stood up and started kind of yelling into my microphone here, it helps you qualify. It helps protect your most valuable asset that you have, which is your time. All right, so this is where I told Dan. I told Dan that he kind of stole my thunder a little bit because I was talking about the. Come on, Dan, you're screwing me up over here. Love your question, man. I'm just joking. But what I was getting at, I'm gonna hit you again with it because it's important to hear, right? We can think of just all the different areas in our. I'm just gonna hit on the sales and marketing aspect of things. Your website, referral program, sales literature, public relations, press releases you might send out, your home shows, job site signs, partner dust campaigns you may send out to a neighborhood of a kick butt neighborhood that you want to do more work in, your social media, your search engine optimization, your pay-per-click, creating really solid videos of showing little differences that you do on projects, your strategic partners, your advertising efforts, your follow-up to prospects, what happens when they sign with you, what happens after the job is done, how you stay in touch with all your previous clients. By the way, these are beautiful Q&A questions if you wanted to dig into any of these topics. But out of all of those things, out of all of those different areas of your sales and marketing process, the most important one is your initial phone call. Right? It's your initial phone call. It's the time that you set the first impression. It's where you set the expectation of what doing business with you is going to be like. You build know, like, and trust during that time frame. You explain your process. You elegantly lead the conversation. You show them you're organized, professional, and solid. Man, the bar is so low in our industry. Have you ever had a prospect say, oh, thanks for calling me back, right? They're so used to calling and people not calling back. They're so used to previous experiences where they have somebody come out to their home for an estimate and then they hound them 3 weeks later saying, hey, have you got our estimate done yet? Right? The bar is low in our industry. There's a guy named Peter Shankman that I follow. He's a business guy. I think he's actually speaking at one of the NARI events, national NARI events coming up. But I don't know if I totally agree with this, but it definitely drives home the point. When it comes to customer service, when it comes to improving our business, our job is to be one level above sucky, right? And in our industry, man, there's so many remodelers who are just doing this so poorly that when we do these little things and when we show we're organized, professional, solid, homeowners notice, man, this is not their first rodeo. Man, he is confident. She is confident, right? That goes a long, long ways. You qualify them. Again, this initial call, why is it most important? You qualify them so you don't end up wasting time and wasting your most valuable asset, which is your time. I hear remodelers talk about taking the first phone call while driving in the car, writing the info on a napkin, taking too long to call back, being distracted or around loud noises when the call is taken, not sounding friendly, not smiling on the phone. Can you hear a smile on the phone? Absolutely. You can hear that right through the phone. of remodelers just shooting from the hip, of not having a process, of just saying, man, I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. I don't need a process. Project discovery sheet. I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing, right? Not tracking how people found you. What if you're the prospect, and what I just described is what you get when you call a few remodelers? It doesn't give you a lot of confidence. They just don't seem to care very much. Versus somebody like Bill, it's quiet around him. He's focused. He's friendly. He's professional. He's leading the conversation. He's expressed an interest in you. Do people love to talk about their family, love to talk about their kids, right? If I'm calling somebody in Pennsylvania this week, am I talking about the Villanova basketball team? Hey, did you catch the game the other day? Right? Now sometimes we can say, well, do you want to just talk about the weather? Nah, the weather's pretty boring. But boy, people love to talk about their family, Oh, your boy's in 4th grade? Man, when our boy was in 4th grade, it's just about that time of the year. He's in Hajba. Locally, that's the name of the baseball league. Are you guys are they into sports at all? It's a great league, right? But asking questions like that all of a sudden sparks it, right? No, he's not interested in that, but what we're involved in is this or that or the other, right? Okay. All right. Give me another question, Jack, while I kind of take a peek at what we're going to tackle next.
Sure. We've actually got another question from Dan. So thanks, Dan, for bringing up the questions and being active in the chat. He also mentioned you were talking about how the bar is set, pretty low in the industry. He said he showed up on time and the homeowners looked at him like he walked on water. So that was surprising. And they were also just happy he parked in the driveway. So it's the little things and having a system and knowing, knowing to do those little things that definitely help. But the question we've got from Dan is actually, he's wondering about after the project is done, and maybe you want to save this for the end Q&A, but after the project's done, paid for, everything's all good. How do you ask for criticism, referrals?
Sure.
How do you follow up? Things like that. What does that look like?
Yeah. So lock that in for after at the Q&A time.
Yep. So we'll do that.
But I am going to go on a little riff here about these little things. So I shared my story earlier about how I started my business. I actually quickly went through it, but I really quickly went through it. Usually what it sounds like is, I used to work for a remodeling company about 8 years ago. I turned to my wife, Sarah, and I said, honey, you're a stay-at-home mama. We got one kid, another one on the way. It's a crappy economy here in Michigan. Not a lot of money in the bank to fall back on, but I want to quit this nice job I have and start my own business. And then what I usually say is, so what do you think she said? I don't know. She probably wasn't that excited about it. No, she wasn't. But I turned my, first client was my former employer, and off I went. And I just saw a need out there, and that's where I shared that part with you guys. Saw a need out there for proven, practical, simple, effective help. The reason I say that is I'm sick of sharing that story. And I actually skipped it this morning, which is actually rare. But I'm fairly sick of sharing that story. I've shared it every time I do a presentation, when I speak at the remodeling show in Chicago, when I was out at the JLC Live show a few weeks ago. I share that story. When I talk to a new prospect. And the reason I do that is because the reason I share the story is because it sets a tone for who I am, right? It talks about my family. That's a huge part of the brand and who I am. Because I love to talk with my clients about their family, and I realize that people don't hire me, or if they want to hire me just to make more money, they're probably not a good client for me. People hire me because I'm going to get into their work-life balance. We're going to improve the sales process so that you feel in control of your business, so that you're not, taking every lead that comes in, so you can go attend the baseball game, so you can take your wife on a date, that type of thing. But I'm sick of saying it because I've said it so often, right? And I've gotten away from it. And what Dan was talking about there, of little things, of parking in the driveway, of smiling on the phone, of pulling out the project discovery sheet, of asking that question that you always ask, right? Of standing a certain way when you get up to the door so it's more approachable, right? All those little things. When we are busy, when we are stressed, when we're dealing with that client issue, when our supplier didn't deliver the materials and now everything's messed up for the next week because we have to go back to that job tomorrow, when that lead carpenter, heaven forbid, jumped ship and went to somebody else, right? All these issues. It is tough to actually take the time to focus your energies on the task at hand, or to do those little things. It takes work to do those little things. But what I just described was, I want you to take this initial phone call, not while you're driving, but when you're when you're in your office or when you're parked, when you have the project discovery sheet in front of you and you have 100% focus on it. But Kyle, I'm too busy. I have to take that call because if I don't call them back while I'm driving, I'm not going to have time. Let me remind you, this is the most important part of the entire process. You want to set yourself up for success here. You want to build know, like, and trust. You want 100% focus, right? I have a quote on my desk that says, the best advice I ever came across on the subject of concentration is wherever you are, be there. Wherever you are, be there, right? Which means give it 100% of your focus. Maybe that's your takeaway today, is that you do a lot of multitasking, and wow, Kyle's right here. This initial call is more important than I'm giving it credit for, and I need to be focused. But the reason I went on that little riff is because, man, these little things and doing these little things and getting that email out and, taking the time to ask more questions than everybody else so you know their needs better than everybody else. It takes effort. It takes time. It takes focus. Cool. All right. And yeah, you just saw it the other day. Walked on water because I showed up on time, right? The bar is low, right? So just absolutely kick the bar's butt and just stand out, right? Wow, they're a little more expensive than the other one we talked to, but I just know this project is going to run smoother. I just like working with them. I just am confident in them. That's what we want them thinking. All right. So the pointed question would be, are you more like Bill or are you more like Tom? Right? And maybe you're somewhere in between. Okay. I want to pause here and just type in on the chat box, type in a takeaway so far. Something that you heard. Now, when I do in-person seminars, this is a lot easier because I just say, give me a takeaway, and then I don't move on until people start giving me takeaways. Because again, the reason you're here, and my only goal is that you leave this webinar with one clear takeaway, something that you're going to implement, do, try, etc. So if you guys can just type in some of those takeaways, I'm just going to give it like 30, 40 seconds of fairly awkward silence. Jack, you're like a beautiful assistant, man. What is the one takeaway you've gotten thus far? Just type it in here, and you're the man. So on the thing, you guys see it. If you click on the chat, you'll put it in there. All right. So do that, please. All right, we're seeing some come in. Excellent. Yeah, so I'm looking at the.
Lindsay
what's that?
We've had Lindsay mention a few times that systems are everything. She seems really excited about that, getting systems set up. A lot of people are looking at kind of trying kind of some of these systems and setups to be able to have their customers go through the same process every time, something that works, and something that is consistent.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just kind of looking at the time and respecting that. I'm going to hit you guys with some quick stuff. All right. So let's talk about just a couple of the other areas of the sales process. So kind of buckle in, and we'll have the recording. So if you need to go back and listen to it, do it. But I'm just gonna hit you guys with a bunch pretty quick here. So the in-person meeting. Here's a couple of notes on the in-person meeting. 5 powerful words. What are those 5 powerful words? This is how we work. Okay. If you don't have your process written out, even if it's just for your own internal use, write out your process from that initial call to completion. What does that look like? Right? After the initial meeting, do you go back and put together just a brief proposal, the full proposal? How do you do design? How do you deliver the proposal in person, over the phone, via email? What happened? How do you do follow-up? How do you manage your sales pipeline? What does your process look like? This is how we work. If you can't clearly tell me that, you need to, like Lindsay said, systems are everything, right? Process. So that in-person meeting, the homeowners need to clearly understand what your process is. Hopefully you've already talked to them on the initial phone call about your process. Hopefully they've already seen what your process is on your website. Hopefully in the email that we send them between the initial phone call and the first meeting, there's a link that shows them and tells them what your process is. Hopefully when you show up in person, they can almost tell you what the process is going to be. But when you're at the in-person meeting, make sure you're just really, really clear with this is how we work. Okay. Second quick tip related to the initial in-person meeting: send out a handwritten thank you card, please. I don't have time for that, Kyle. Please. Send out a handwritten thank you card after the initial in-person meeting. If you do it at the end of the project, cool. I think there's more of an impact that happens after the initial in-person meeting. If you're looking at the screen, you can see Bill sent one out. Cathy and Chris, thank you for your interest in our remodeling services. It was great meeting you. I look forward to our next conversation. It'd be an honor to work with you on your projects. Please let me know if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you on April 21st at 3 o'clock. Many thanks, Bill. Nothing earth-shattering about this. Do I have to handwrite it? My handwriting's bad. Yes. Handwrite it, right? Now, if you have an office manager, handwrite it and then just hand it off. They can put the address on there, the stamp on it. They can lick it. They can put it in the, the envelope. They can do all that. But get this out, right? 4 minutes. Have a little script just like this. It can almost be verbatim each time. But it's just another little thing that separates you, that differentiates you. The other thing you'll notice on here, on a subconscious thing, is that Chris already knows when his follow-up appointment with Cathy and Chris is. Because before he left that in-person meeting, he scheduled that. I'll just leave that at that. All right. So there's a couple.
If I can add real quick, Kyle's not joking about this. He does this. After the first call that I had with Kyle, about 5 or 6 days later, I got a handwritten note in the mail. So he's not just saying you need to do this. He's actually doing this himself, and it is a great touch. So I would definitely take a look at that as a good option.
It's like I walk on water when it comes to thank you cards. Here's the deal. I stink at doing that. And the only reason you got it is because I mentioned it at the Great Lakes Builder Show here in Michigan. And I said, I was talking about this particular topic. And I had back in the fall, I said, Kyle, get yourself together. Get some thank you cards out. When you talk to a prospect, send it out. Practice what you preach. And I mentioned it at this Great Lakes Builder Show, and I said, let me give you an example. I ran back to my bag, and I pulled out these thank you cards I've been carrying around, and I said, you see these thank you cards? They have been on my desk or in my bag for 4 months, and I haven't sent a single one out. I don't have the time to do it? Yeah, I'm busy. But if it's valuable, and I know it's a nice touch, right? You got that, and you're like, wow, that was kind of nice of Kyle. So the only reason that I started sending that out is because there was a guy that was in that session that texted me the next day and said, hey, Kyle, check this out. And he sent me a picture of 2 thank you cards because he had the same stinking thing that he had thank you cards but never sent them out. And the only reason, Jack, that you got them is because I wanted to text that guy back, that remodeler back, and say, hey, back at you. Here's 5 that I just sent out. And I've been getting better at it. But man, here's what this comes down to. Lindsay mentioned systems. Systems are everything. There is nothing that complex. I'm standing up again, so this must be important, so pay attention. There is nothing that complex about any of these systems, about any of these processes. Nothing earth-shatteringly difficult about them. You want to copy that initial email I send out? I'll send it to you. Ask me for it. Boom, you got it. Okay. By the way, Remodeler's Autopilot makes this whole thing really easy. So if you want to talk about that, but I digress. But what it comes down to is not necessarily, oh, the process is just too complex. That's why I don't have it done. No, it's not that. You can look at this in any part of your business. An area that I see an issue with a lot of my clients is the handoff between sales and production. Okay. Pre-construction conference. Oh, we need to do a better job of that. Okay. What's your process for your pre-construction conference? If you didn't have one and I handed you a blank sheet of paper and said write pre-construction conference at the top and put a number 1 and write it out, you could write it out. It may not be perfect the first time around, but you could write it out. This is what you need to cover with your lead carpenter. This is what you need to cover with the homeowners. You need to talk about where you use the bathroom. You need to talk about what's going to happen with the pets. You need to talk about where you're going to park. Where can we put the dump truck, right? All that stuff. There's nothing that complex about it. So in our business, why is it that we have some processes in place and we don't have other processes in place? It is not that they are too complex. I hope you guys agree with that. It is not because they're too complex. Pull out a blank sheet of paper, start writing the process out. What it is that you don't want it bad enough. How bad do you want it? Do you want to really excel at the initial phone call? I just gave you the formula right here. You can get the information. You can practice it. You can do it. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to run a remodeling business that you feel in control of? right? That's not running you, but you're running it. How bad do you want to be organized? Do you want to deliver that estimate or that design or that proposal at the time you said you were going to? How bad do you want your employees to really enjoy working for you? How bad do you want to not take evening appointments anymore? So you're going to set up a process to not do that anymore. How bad do you want to excel at being a great father or mother? How bad do you want to excel at being the best husband or wife that you can be? How bad do you want, see how I'm tying this into everything? How bad do you want to grow in your faith walk? How bad do you want to actually volunteer with that organization that you want? How bad do you want to be a really good son or daughter to your mom or dad who's aging? How bad do you want to be a really good friend and somebody that can count on you for advice? Okay? All of this stuff in business and processes, it really comes down to how bad you want it. The difference between the top 10% in our industry who have all this stuff done and figured out versus the bottom 80, 90% is not, again, it's not that this stuff is that complex. It's that they don't want it bad enough. That's something that really hit me. It's something I've been sharing a lot over the last 4 or 5 months because it really comes down to that. All right, I'm going to sit down again. Quickly through kind of the follow-up. We give up too soon with follow-up. We give up too soon because we get too busy and we forget about them. Okay. Back to our story. Tom's sales pipeline, big stack of folders on the desk. Bill's process, he's got a sales pipeline. This is inside Remodeler's Autopilot in Bill's case. And with a click of a button, he can click on done proposal for, haven't signed. Very important little part of your sales process. Done proposal for, haven't signed. And with a click of a button, he can see exactly who's in there. With a click of a button, he can see exactly who's in his appointment or working on proposal stage because everybody's in there. Okay. So when it comes to our follow-up, the first thing we need to do is have a system so that we can easily track our sales pipeline. Now, this can be in a program like Remodeler's Autopilot. Could be in a program. There's a lot of other software companies out there in our industry. It could be a simple Excel spreadsheet that just has all the information in one spot. But this is the reason we don't follow up well, is usually because it's a stack of folders on our desk, or it's, whatever system you have for it. But man, is it important to have your sales pipeline clear.
Yeah, just a couple quick things I want to add on that. I mean, the most important system the correct system for you is the one you'll actually use. If it's an Excel spreadsheet that you keep everyone's info on and keep track of that and you use it, that's great. If you have the fanciest CRM program in the world that you pay $1,000 a month for, but you don't use it, then it's no value to you.
Yeah, it's worthless. Yeah.
And another thing on the follow up is Kyle was saying, we don't follow up enough. We're not persistent enough on that. And I've seen research that shows that on average it takes 7 interactions with a customer to get a sale, and maybe more if you're trying to sell them a big project.
That 74% of all statistics are made up, Jack, right?
Exactly. So, and I think that one might have been as well. But it just goes to the point of you can't have one phone call and a meeting and expect to get the sale. A lot of times you need to follow up. You need to have another meeting. There's steps to it.
Exactly.
And once you've already gotten people into the first couple steps in your sales pipeline, it's easier to move them through the rest.
Bingo. Tracking how they found out about us, right? This is a little screenshot of Remodeler's Autopilot, but making sure that on your project discovery sheet, you're asking everybody how they found out about us. How often has a remodeler come up to me and said, well, should I do this? Should I advertise on this? Should I do this? And some of it, they've been advertising it for a year. And I say, well, what have been the results? And it's kind of like, well, I think we did okay, but they're all relying on gut feel versus actual data, right? If we're doing this right and we're tracking it, we can create a marketing dashboard like this. This could be just through a simple Excel spreadsheet. This could be through Remodeler's Autopilot, like a program I'm talking about. There's plenty of options here, but being able to look at the end of the year, all of the leads you generated, where they came from, how many of those you signed, your closing percentage by lead source, the amount of revenue you generated by lead source, average job size, right? Marketing dollars spent, whole thing kind of funnels from there. Boy, there's so many of us who just aren't spending any time tracking our leads. And it doesn't have to be complex, but it's so important to track this so that we can make adjustments and spend our valuable dollars wisely. So we're talking about follow-up here, follow-up. These are a couple of Remodeler's Autopilot postcards that get sent out. I'm just going to cruise through that. But follow-up, we give up too soon with follow-up. Takeaway, make sure that your sales pipeline is up to date, rock solid. If you're not going to do it, do you have somebody in your team, an office manager, somebody that you can bring in to help you with it? Do you just need to buckle down and do it, right? we go and chase the next lead so often instead of making sure we're following up. Now, how do we follow up? We can call, yes. Make sure that when you're getting off the phone with a prospect or you're going through a meeting with a prospect and they give you the old, we'll get back to you. When would you like me to follow up next? Say that and shut up, right? When would you like me to follow up next? Make a note of that and call, right? I've been getting a lot more response to text message follow-up than I have to emails. If you have their cell phone, shoot them a quick text. Right? In our day and age, people get mad because they get a phone call from somebody. How dare they try to call me? There's so many other ways to contact me that's so less obtrusive, right? But that's the day and age. Maybe adjust there, right? I've sent Facebook messages to somebody versus an email and got more response. Same with like LinkedIn. Right. Keep an eye out as Cathy and Chris, as Bill got to know Cathy and Chris, they know about the sports. They know how old the kids are. You may talk to a prospect and hear about how they can't meet next Tuesday because their boy's on varsity baseball. And then you're reading the local newspaper, the Tecumseh Herald. I grew up in Tecumseh, Michigan, the Tecumseh Herald, and you see that their boy, was 3 for 4 with a dinger and 3 ribbies the other day. And you cut that article out and just say, hey, it was fun. I smiled when I saw this. Congrats to your boy, and mail it to him. Right? Just to touch base with them. You may remember that during the sales process, they talked about how job site cleanliness is really important to them. When they've remodeled before, man, it was just a mess and things were left everywhere and it was never swept up, and we're trying to live in this house and it's a mess, and every time we walk in here, we track dust. And maybe you send them that little video that you created with your iPhone, nothing fancy, and said, hey, this is Kyle, this is Bill with Refined Remodeling. Something that our clients really appreciate is how we clean up job sites every day. And I'm out here on a job site today, and I just wanted to record this quick video to show you some of the things we do to protect your property, protect your home. You can see here the tools are locked up, all cleaned up at the end of the day. We have the zip system, we have the build clean system. You show those things, you give them the visual, and maybe that's your follow-up. You send an email that says, hey, I know job site cleanliness is important to you. I don't know if you've seen this little video, but this is, these are the steps that we go through to make sure your job site remains clean. I was just thinking about you today. I know the project's going to happen on your schedule, not ours, but just wanted to follow up and see where you guys were at with things. Just very simple, but get creative with it and realize that ignoring those people, or I've called them twice and then never calling them back, you're just leaving money on the table. All right. And then what happens right after the project is signed and after the job is completed, right? Blah, nothing.
Kyle,
Right?
I think you just cut out for a second. Can you just repeat what you said? So you said what happens after and then just repeat from there. Sorry. Kyle, are you there? Okay, I think Kyle might be having some issues maybe with his internet connection. Maybe he is going to be back on in a second here. So while we're talking about this, we are going to be doing a Q&A at the end. So I've got a few questions from people that we'll be bringing up at the end. So we've got a question from Dan about what happens after the job. I'll make sure to bring that up. We're going to talk to Kyle about sending out some of this information, this packet of information, such as the initial contact email and some of the other things that Kyle's been talking about. We'll be sending that out to everybody.
My back now?
You're back now, Kyle. I was just telling people about some of the questions. Yeah, so you just cut out. You were saying what happens after and then it cut out a little bit. So if you just want to start from there, you can go. Let me give you the screen back.
All right, cool. Yeah, so a lot of times, yeah, there we go. All right, Jay, I saw in the chat. Jay just said, "You're up, Jack. Take over." Yeah, finish it off.
Yep.
Yeah, so after the job is completed, I'm just going to summarize this. I got a new connection here. I'm going to just turn the old video on. Let me know when you're seeing me instead of my screen here.
Yep, we've got you.
So when it comes to the end of the project, what it all comes down to is, do you have a prospect at the end of the job, a process at the end of the job, right? If I did a remodel for you 2 years ago and spent 40 grand with you, and my wife and I were happy with the project, have I heard from you since then? It's been 2 years. Have I heard from you since then? Right? So that's a really good question, something that you need a process in place for that. So often we get that final check and adios, disappear. We'll get maybe into Dan's question here in a bit, but with that Remodelers Autopilot program, there's a completed job sequence. Okay, click the button, add them completed job sequence. Initial end of project survey goes out immediately. So you can do that in person. Some people do that. So kind of ask for a review on for us. We would really appreciate it if you could leave a review for us on Google and Houzz. 6 months later, hey, we just wanted to check in with you. It's been 6 months since we completed your project. We just wanted to check in and see if you had any care or maintenance questions, right? A year later, send them a little happy birthday card in the mail. 1 year, hey, it's been 1 year since your project was completed. Time flies. We hope you're enjoying the new space still, and we just want to take this time to thank you again for your business. We really enjoyed working with you. Right? So with a program like Remodelers Autopilot, you click a button and all that happens automatically. But you can just open up your Outlook, right? When the job is done, make a little appointment in your Outlook for 1 month out. Send them an email about getting a review on Google and Houzz. 6 months out, check in with them. 1 year out, send that little birthday card or give them a phone call. But you got to do something, right? Our most valuable marketing asset is our previous client list. The majority of the dollars that you put in your bank account this year are going to come from previous clients or referrals from those previous clients. And if you're not doing anything to stay in touch with them and be proactive with that, that's not good, right? Don't tell me that, hey, I have a really good Facebook page, or, the Snapchat thing's new and I'm spending time on Snapchat, or I got Twitter, this or that. If you're not staying in touch with your previous clients, but you're doing that, may I suggest that maybe we have our priorities wrong, right? So that's kind of what I want to hit on related to the end of the job. And I'm kind of looking at the clock, so I figure maybe we get into some Q&A now, Jack. And then I think we have a little offer thing. If you guys want more information about the Remodelers Autopilot program, just send me an email, I think is what the offer says, or there's a link. If you just fill out that little form, I'll be in touch with you about that. And I share with you guys a lot of different resources that I'm happy to share with you. My email address is kyle@remodelyour marketing.com, or my phone number 810-522-8755. Jack, question time.
Yep, and just to everybody, Remodelers Autopilot is what Kyle's been talking about a bit. If you want some more information on that, you can click the link on the right side there where it says Learn More. We've also got Kyle's email address. One thing, Kyle, that a lot of people were asking is a lot of people wanted to get that script you had for the initial email. A couple of those things we can send out after, put that together, and okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, there's two things there. Yes, if somebody put in the chat and said, hey, here's my email address, can you send it to me? Let's do that, and maybe we'll also include it in the recording. But here's why I'm hesitant that, and this is just my experience of doing this and doing webinars and doing in-person events for a long time. If you just say, hey, can you just include that in the email that you send out, versus they actually reach out and say, Kyle, can you send me this? What I have found is that the people that actually reach out and proactively ask for it, they implement it so much more often than the people that don't. And I've seen this on webinars, but I've also seen this because I've been speaking to home builder associations in Michigan for so many years. The people that actually take the effort to ask for it versus the people that I just used to send it to automatically, there's a huge difference between implementing versus not implementing in that. So we'll send it to them, but feel free to actually ask me for it too, because I know if you do that, there's a way better chance that you're going to implement it, and that's what this is all about.
Right, and what Kyle, like I said, Kyle's email is over there on the right side, kyle@remodelyourmarketing.com, and you can click Learn More to head over to his website and learn more as well. Yeah, so a couple of questions. So we had one from Jay. So he's asking.
Hang on. Yeah, Gino just mentioned. Looks like the email has a typo. If anyone's using copy and paste.
Oh, sorry about that.
So KYLE@remodelyourmarketing.com.
Okay. Yep. Let me change that. So Jay was asking a question about following up with someone when when you call them and you leave them a voicemail and you don't hear back from them. how long do you wait to give them a call back? Do you call back? I know what how do
Yeah.
you go about that?
Yeah. Um, Sometimes it's tricky, right? Because we don't want to be annoying. We don't. I'll give you an example for me. I had a prospect that just really promising, ready to go, and hey, let's talk on Friday, and let's just sign everything, and I'll give you the credit card number and all that. Friday came and went, voicemail left. Monday came. I gave another call. Tuesday came. I'm like, I don't want to call him a third time. I'll shoot him a text message. Didn't respond, and I finally on Wednesday just sent him an email. Said, I don't want to bug you, but you were really interested. I know I can help you out. Let me know. Let me know. Get in touch with me. So that was a little aggressive from a standpoint of 2 emails, a text, and a phone call. But it was also somebody that was really interested and that had committed to wanting me to follow up so that we could move forward. Maybe he's just busy, but the answer to that question is more than you think you should. Follow up more than you think you should. If they reached out to you and they're interested, don't call them one time and not call back. People are busy, man. I got tech. When it comes to text messaging, text messaging, I'm pretty bad at responding to. If it's in my inbox, my email inbox, it's guaranteed to get a response because that's how I manage a lot of my work. But voicemails, people are busy. So, number one, get creative. And if most of the time you're getting a cell phone number, so shoot them a quick text. Hey, this is Kyle here at Remodel Your Marketing. I left a voicemail the other day. Just wanted to see if we could set up a time to talk, right? If you have their email address, something similar. Something that is interesting to use, I use a program called followupthen, THEN.com, followupthen, THEN.com. If you went into my inbox right now, you'd see several of those. And what that program does, it's a free program. If I'm sending an email to a prospect that says, hey, I saw that you're interested in talking, does next Tuesday at 3 o'clock work? Let me know. In the blind carbon copy, I'll put an email, I'll type in 3 days at followupthen.com. You can put 2 hours at followupthen.com. You can put 1 month at followupthen.com. You can put 2 weeks at followupthen.com. But whenever that term, like 3 days from the time I click that send button, I'm going to receive a follow-up in my email that says, hey, you wanted me to remind you that you sent this 3 days ago, and then I can follow up. So even that, is a good tool to make it easier to remember to follow up, all those little things. So yeah, if you leave a voicemail, leave a second voicemail for sure, and then just get creative and think, put yourself in their shoes. How would you want to be followed up with? And do that. Decent answer, but it's different in every case. The bottom line is a lot of times we just don't follow up a second time, and we've totally lost that opportunity that you paid for, that you spent marketing dollars on, that you got referred to. Don't give up on it so quick.
Yeah, definitely. And there are a lot of tools that will do send later type things,
Yeah.
and you can snooze emails in your inbox and bring them up a week later and things like that. So I definitely suggest people check some of those out. Let's see. So we got another email. Do you want to expand a little bit more? I know we talked about Dan had asked the question earlier about what to do after the job. Can you just expand a bit more about some of the stuff you do for following up, asking for referrals, things like that?
Yeah. So end of the job, asking for referrals, completed job survey. So some people, like I said, do that completed job survey in person. Don't do that completed job survey until you've been paid. And I think if I remember Dan's question, he said after it's been paid, everything's done. If you want to be proactive with it and really truly understand how they felt about it, do that in person. Ask them, what did you like the most about the project? Where did we let you down? Be honest with us. Guild Quality does something similar, and you could create your own survey that you just send out, and hey, we really value your feedback, really appreciate you taking the time to fill this out to really let us know how we did. When it comes to timeliness or cleanliness of the job site or schedule or budget, strongly agree to strongly disagree, questions like that. So it doesn't need to be that complex, just something that gets their feedback, something that makes it easy for them to fill that out. As far as asking for referrals, yes, you can do that at the end of the project, but the bigger thing we want to do with referrals, it's a long-term play, right? We're not trying to be the insurance agent that says, sign here and then give me 3 names of people that you want, right? No, that's not what we want to be. What we want to do is we want to set an expectation for referrals throughout the whole process. What that might sound like is, after they sign with you, you may say, my goal here is that when this project is done and we've gone through this whole process, whether it's 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years from now, when you have somebody that needs the type of work we need done, you are going to happily and excitedly refer us to them. Our goal is not to make you a satisfied client. Our goal is to give you a remarkable experience that you're going to be thrilled with. So that's our goal. That's what we're going to be doing. That's what we're angling for. A lot of our work does come from referrals. We take that really seriously. We really appreciate, people that spread the name, right? So that's happening maybe early in the process or after they've signed with you. And then, be proactive. Pick up the phone this week. If you have 100 previous clients, pick up the phone this week and call 5 previous clients and say, hey, I was just thinking about you today. Wanted to check in, see how the family's doing, see how you're doing. How you doing? Right? Nothing fancy, nothing whatever. But being proactive like that, there's a guy out in New York who I gave that advice to, and he said that's the most valuable marketing advice I've ever received. Pretty simple, right? Pick up the phone and call previous clients. But what's going to happen there? If we just pick up the phone and be proactive with that, if they have a project they're thinking about, you're going to get the, well, it's funny you called, right? We actually have this. Or if there's a referral opportunity, that can happen. So just be proactive with it in those ways. There's a couple of ideas for you.
Great. And not really seeing too many other questions.
Okay.
So maybe we'll, I just want to take a minute here. I'm going to throw something up on my screen here. I just want to point everybody, if you go to our website, clearestimates.com, we'll have this recording available soon. But if you go to clearestimates.com and then go to support, the bottom of that list, you'll see webinars. All of our previous webinars are going to be here. So you can go to that page and you'll be able to see all of our previous webinars, including this one. It'll take a couple of hours to get that one up, but all of our previous webinars are going to be down here and available. So we've got a couple of other webinars you can check out on that site as well. So it's clearestimates.com/webinars if you want to go directly to it. Otherwise, you can just go to our website and go to the webinars as well. You will get the recording automatically in your email. So we have a direct link to it in your email, which you'll get. Like I said, just takes a couple hours to process the video and all of that. And if you want to follow us on Twitter or Facebook, we're also going to be posting a lot of information there for upcoming webinars, as well as some other good info that you might find useful. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put up an offer for kind of a thanks for coming for this webinar. If you want to get 10% off of Clear Estimates for 6 months, you can click there on the right side and get 10% off there. So hopefully we'll maybe get a few more questions. We got a few people saying that this was really, really enjoyable. They learned a lot. Let's see, people are saying they're going to follow up with you. So Kyle, expect to get some emails, and you probably need to make sure you follow up with everybody like they said. Just a reminder, if you want that initial contact email script that Kyle had, any of that stuff, send him an email. He will be able to help you out with that. That would be the best way to go about that. Kyle@remodelyourmarketing.com. If you send us an email, Jack@clearestimates.com. I can also give you his contact info, and we'll include his email in the emails that go out. So unless anybody has any more questions, we still have quite a few people hanging out on the webinar. So does anybody have any more questions? Please
or takeaways
in the chat, or takeaways. Anything maybe any suggestions on the next thing you'd want Kyle to cover in a webinar, that kind of thing would be greatly appreciated as well. Just to make sure everybody knows that the full recording will be available after the webinar. So do feel free to check that out. That'll be available. Anything else you want to add, Kyle? I'll throw it back over to you. Anything else you want to add before we let everybody get going? Seems like everybody had a great time. So I do want to thank you from us at Clear Estimates, and thank everybody who was coming here. It looks like it was a pretty successful hour and 20 minutes or so.
Good. No, thanks everybody for dialing in. Again, I think the biggest takeaway is a couple takeaways. One being, that initial call is your most valuable, important time. Take it seriously, right? Take some of these ideas and start to implement them. If you get that project discovery sheet, or if you start to ask questions, it's clunky the first few times you ask a new question that you've never asked before on the phone, or your heart might start racing like, I could never ask about the budget over the phone. Once you do it a few times, once you get used to it, once you kind of make it your own, it becomes second nature. What you can't do is just sit back and just do it the way you've always done it. Keep improving. And then the bigger other thing is find something you heard and implement it. Okay, it is so easy to go to a conference, attend a webinar, read something, and then you get busy and you forget about it. Do something with it. Implement it. That's it. That's it. I was telling Jack earlier, I battled through injuries today. I played basketball earlier. I've been working out, as you guys can see. I figured I was in good shape. A buddy of mine asked to play basketball. It's like a Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, and I hurt my Achilles, or something popped in my calf. So I am heading to the doctors now that I've put in this webinar time.
Just one quick thing that I did forget to bring up. BLB, you had brought that up earlier. Yeah. What is that? We got a lot of people curious to hear about.
So BLB stands for breakfast, lunch, or beer. Breakfast, lunch, or beer. So I went on a little rant earlier about this whole. Look, if you have a Facebook page and you're thinking you got everything figured out because you got a Facebook page, but you're not staying in touch with your previous clients, you haven't really fine-tuned your sales process, you don't have a kick-butt website that you're proud of, and then the fourth kind of pillar of that is you haven't developed strategic partnerships, right? Landscapers, architects, realtors, anybody who shares the same ideal client as you do. So it could be your CPA, your accountants, whoever else. If you do three BLBs a month, right? That's 36. If my math is correct. 36. Just quick breakfast, quick coffee, lunch, beer with potential strategic partners, with key previous clients, and just getting to know them, building know, like, and trust. Implementing that into your business, doing some BLBs. It's not that sexy. It's not that new of an idea. It's a little bit hand-to-hand combat. It's a little bit long-term play. But man, is it valuable. So BLB stands for breakfast, lunch, or beer. Mark thought that was funny. He went LOL on that.
Yeah, Mark liked that.
Now, do you think Mark said LOL like laugh out loud, or do you think lots of love because he just really loved this webinar? He's feeling connected.
I think hopefully a bit of both.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah. So again, everybody, thanks a bunch for coming. I'm going to hang out here on the webinar, and maybe Kyle will, for a couple more minutes, just in case anybody has any more questions. Lindsay trying to type the thumbs up emoji. Okay. Maybe no emojis allowed on this chat for some reason. So happy to see that people found it useful. Stay tuned for our upcoming webinars. Take a look at our previous ones. We're going to keep trying to put some good info together for everybody. So I'm going to hang out just for a minute here to see if anybody. Yeah, Kyle said he's going to hang out for a minute just to see if we still got about 40 people on. So see if anybody has any more questions. Feel free to just pop them in the chat there. We'll do our best to answer them, and that will be it. So otherwise, we can let Kyle go get his Achilles taken care of. And again, so Kyle's email, let me put it up on here just so that. Email Kyle for more information. Hopefully I didn't have a typo there. You can email Kyle for more information. He can help you out with getting some of the templates and documents that you can use. So we got a question here from Howard. Is there something better to use than House, or do you really like House for that kind of stuff that we're talking about, providing links in your initial emails to House so that the clients can take a look at what's available and maybe come up with things that they like. Are there any other things you might suggest for that, or do you like House for it?
We could clip some magazine articles, right? Those days have kind of gone. I mean, House is the prominent player as far as having best database, great searchable database, the ability to make idea books. On the flip side, there are other contractor names and listings on there. Well, what if I send them to House and then they see these other contractors and call them? Yeah, okay. There's also something called Google. There's also something called they run into a friend and say, oh, you're thinking about a kitchen? We had so-and-so do it. There's a million ways people can find you. The reason I'm not scared about that is that, look, Houzz is a great resource. If you're the one advising them, educating them on it, if you're showing them and sending them a little video on how to create an idea book, if they're participating in that with you, Houzz is great. Now, on the flip side, the other side of things of, they're a little aggressive with their sales process, right? They're trying to monetize now. If you haven't received a call from Houzz, guess what? You probably will in the next week or two. So there may be on the advertising side of things, just as a side question there may be it's hit or miss. Some of my clients advertising on Houzz and do really well. Other ones, they were doing better before they started advertising. It's very hit or miss depending on the part of the year. But no, I mean, Houzz is a great resource. There's a lot of your clients that are already on there. The people that are going there are not your people looking for 4x4 white tile. They're looking to do creative things. So that's all I got to say about that.
Fantastic. So let's see. Yeah, it looks like a lot of people are going to be showing the webinar, the video of the webinar with their sales team, with their team at their company, which is great. That's why we provide those links, so that you can come back and share all this info with the rest of your team. So you'll be able to follow up with questions for us. You can email me or Kyle after the webinar. We'll still be glad to answer questions for you.
Love it.
And just in case everybody's taking a look on the right side of your screen there is an offer for 10% off Clear Estimates if you're interested in that. I know we didn't talk about Clear Estimates today, but Kyle was mentioning, how long does it take to, do the initial contact, drive out to someone's house, put an estimate together, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. I know a lot of you guys maybe think, well, an estimate alone takes 7 or 8 hours. Well, if you're doing it on Excel, if you're doing it on handwritten for each one, you're probably wasting a little bit of time. So check out Clear Estimates. You do get 30 days free, and then the deal here will get you 10% off for 6 months of payment. So I know a lot of you guys are Clear Estimates customers. So that's why you guys are here. You heard about it from us anyway. But if you want to check it out, head to our website, clearestimates.com, or you can sign up for the free trial, and this deal will get you 10% off for 6 additional months. Hopefully it'll keep that estimating time to a minimum so you can focus on your sales process and the important aspects there.
Beautifully done tying that together.
Just a lot of people saying thanks. Looks like people are starting to sign off here.
Yep.
Raheem just asked a question asking for, is the Clear Estimates offer just for new customers? No, it is not. Go to the link, and there's a coupon code at the link. So click on where it says get 10% off, and grab the coupon code that's on that page, and I'll put this up. Email me the coupon code, and I will apply the coupon to your account. So if you've already got an account, you can do that.
Nice.
Let's see. Jay is asking, does Clear Estimates have a database? Yes, we have a database. We've partnered with a company called Remodel Max, which has a database of about 12,000 individual line items that you can use on your estimates, along with about 60 templates. So, Kyle was talking about remodelers that do a lot of kitchen, bath, and additions, things like that. We've got templates built in there for it. So if you're going to do a 400 square foot kitchen remodel, you can just type in 400 square feet or whatever the square footage is, and it will calculate out all the items that you need on a common job like that. So that can really cut your estimating time down, so you're not building each one completely from scratch. So the database has all that in there, along with pricing specific for your area. I know we're getting off the sales thing a little bit, but this can help you cut down the estimating time as it kind of eats away at your sales process. One thing I'm sure Kyle would agree with, you can't let your leads go cold. You can't talk to them with the initial call and then a month later send them an estimate. So if you can get your estimates done quickly, that can definitely help. So check out Clear Estimates. Like I said, you do get a free trial as well as the 10% off for 6 months. Raheem's asking if we have a basement template. We do not have a basement template, unfortunately, at the moment. So we have kitchens, bathrooms, decks, garages, a bunch of additions, things like that built in there. You can create your own templates, which is very useful, but we don't have a built-in basement template at the moment. But we have gotten a lot of questions about that, so I would not be surprised if that was on our pipeline pretty soon here.
Get it done. Get it done, Jack.
That's right. That's right. Let's see. Yeah, again, just thanks to Kyle for spending the time, coming in around an hour and a half, so we really appreciate Kyle's time. Did a great job. I think everybody seems to be very, very glad that they came to this. So check out the webinar on the recording if you want to refresh your memory on anything we covered here today. Send Kyle an email. It's on my screen right now, Kyle@remodelyourmarketing.com. He can help follow up with things. He helps remodelers. He helps people get this sales process, these systems set up. So send him an email and he can help you and get some of these things nailed down. And then if you have any questions about Clear Estimates, you can head to our website, clearestimates.com, or just send me an email, jack@clearestimates.com, and I'll be glad to help.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah. Let's see. Howard is asking a question about a commercial kitchen template. No, we don't have commercial kitchen templates. Most of our items and our templates are for residential remodeling. We do have some customers who use it for commercial estimating, but for the most part, it's for residential. So if you want to add, you can create your own templates in our software. So Howard, you can create your own commercial kitchen template if you'd like. You can adjust our template in there to fit what a commercial kitchen would need, but we just don't have that in there already. So it's not that you can't do it, it's just it might take a little bit more customization. So you're welcome to give a try on the free trial, play around with it. If it doesn't work, that's totally fine. That's what the free trial is for. And Kyle's put his email in the chat as well. And Kyle's email address is also on my screen there at the bottom, Kyle@remodelyourmarketing.com, right here, down here at the bottom. So you can send him an email, and he'll be more than happy to help get you through any questions you have. Let's see. I think everybody's kind of on their way out here. So I'm going to hang on a minute just to make sure that the recording gets done correctly. But thanks again, Kyle, and appreciate everybody coming out. This was very useful, and glad everybody found it valuable.
All right. Thanks, guys.